Now, the magnetism of God, just like this. It doesn't test us, find out whether or not we are worthy of its presence, nor does it ever withhold itself until we have proved ourselves worthy, nor does it ask us whether or not we have been good or bad. It stands eternally ready and more certain than the North Pole to put things right in our lives and in our minds. And how simple and how right all this seems. And we are blessed even beyond the needle. We are blessed because we are conscious and we can reach out in faith and say, Father, here am I. The moment, the very instant we open our hearts and our minds to the magnetic power of God, then the nature of God flows through us and gives purpose and direction to our lives. And it dispels fear and fulfills our hope. It covers the shadow of defeat and uncertainty with light and joy and radiance. Now the needle that is drawn toward the magnetic pole loses nothing of its own being. Nothing is ever taken away from it. That is, nothing except its inner confusions, which are healed. And when we, in faith and trust and confidence, become magnetized with the power of God, we shall lose nothing of the joy and the happiness of our lives. Nothing is taken away from us but confusion. And who among us would not be free of the inner conflicts that have brought only despair and heartache into our lives? Yes, letting that mind which was in Christ Jesus, which is the magnetic mind of God, be also in us, is a matter of affirmative prayer and of right thinking. Think what a wonderful thing it would be if our lives were governed by the perfect mind, the mind that knows only happiness, only beauty and wholeness. And each one of us has a divine right to expect this magnetic relationship for himself and for others. And if we would stop and realize it, most of us already have used this magnetic power one way or in another. We have sat across the room from someone who is laughing, and the laughter has reached our ears, and something within us has responded to the joy and the music of the laughter and has made us a part of it. Then we wanted to laugh too. And the reason we wanted to laugh was that the magnetic power of the laughter flowed through us because we listened, and it touched our minds, and it became a part of us. We, in turn, can become magnets of joy and happiness. For you see, when we laugh, then the magnetism of our laughter readjusts the mental molecules of sadness in others, so that their minds also point to happiness. The same thing happens when we talk with someone who is peaceful and calm, when we come into his presence, perhaps in a state of confusion, but simply by being in his presence, we become magnetized by his serenity. We begin to feel peaceful. And all about us, there are positive magnetic poles that can pull us in the direction of greater peace and more power and better health. Everywhere in life, there is goodness and there is beauty. These are the magnets we would have order our lives, for these are all part of God. When we say, I and the Father are one, we become magnetized by the life of God. For as surely as the North Pole calls to the needle, so surely the Spirit calls to our minds, as though it were saying, permit me. to enter. We all feel this call, and whether or not we know it, all of us are in search of something that can make us whole. And there seems to be something in us, something even in our most distressing moments, which knows that there is a power greater than we are, and it knows that we can turn to it. Let's see then just how this would work in practical experience. Suppose we should find ourselves in confusion inwardly and surrounded by confusion outwardly, until our thoughts are like the molecules in a piece of steel that we're going first one way and then another way and getting nowhere. Now, instead of fighting the current of the stream of life, how much better it would be if we would sit on the bank for a while and find a place of peace in our minds, so that when we re-enter the stream, we shall be carried along by its current to an ocean of fulfillment. But just what should we do if we find ourselves in the midst of this confusion? First of all, we should realize that there is a power, a divine magnetism, which can heal our confusion. We do not have to heal it. We have to point our thoughts toward the power that can. So we may say to ourselves, God is not confused, and my life is God's life. God is infinite and perfect peace, and this infinite and perfect peace governs my thoughts and my actions. And because my thoughts and actions are governed by the presence of a peace that is never disturbed, I know that whatever confusion there is shall pass away. Let's live with this until it becomes real to us, until there is nothing in our hearts that argue against it. Let's live with it until we feel and know it without question. Sometimes we have to tell ourselves over and over again what the truth is. But let's do it. Let's keep at it until peace comes. Jesus said to pray without ceasing. And so as often as necessary, let's be quiet and know that God is peace. And as surely as we do this, peace will come. Let's see how this works out in acquiring self-confidence. For just as surely as this principle can be used to bring peace into our lives, it can be used to bring us confidence. If we are lacking in confidence, it is because our thoughts have been demagnetized by our defeats and our failures. Now let's magnetize our thoughts with faith. We can do this by realizing that life is never uncertain of itself. The universe in which we live is certain. Every star and planet, every blade of grass, and every sunset reflects the certainty and the authority of life. We are drawn and governed by the same life and the same certainty. Now the following statements will help us to make this confidence real. Divine life sustains me. God's presence is the certainty of everything I do. Infinite intelligence directs me, and I dwell in the house of the Lord forever.